I'm of the opinion that My Hero Academia is getting worse as time goes on. I'm caught up with the manga except for the last 2 to 3 chapters, I'm always watching the anime, I'm even a major fan of the side series My Hero Vigilantes. I like the story crafted here overall. And this season, the material adapted here, in my opinion, is the last good bits from this story in terms of consistency. And even then I have some major problems with it. There's some amazing stuff with the Gentle Criminal, one of the best arcs in the story for me, and some weaker stories like the one focusing on Overhaul. That's not a majority opinion, but I hope you'll hear me out. I'm going to try and explain the good in the beginning of the fall in My Hero Academia Season 4. Now just remember, this is my opinion, my take. You don't have to agree, but for those of you who don't, this could be something interesting to think about. Anyways, let's start with, in my opinion, the weakest part of this season, the Overhaul arc. When I first read this in the manga, I really wasn't a fan. The main antagonist had weak motivations with a largely uninteresting power. The objective of the arc felt weak as he was supposed to be a figure to inspire fear like All For One, since he wanted to become the next top dog villain, but just ended up being an afterthought for me. However, the thing that made me think the arc wasn't a complete failure before was how the side characters carried it. Night Eye is a great mentor figure with a strong presence in the story and playing a big role in All Might's life. Kirishima got a bunch of spotlight with his quirk development and a strong character moment to top it off. Sun Eater is easily one of my favorite characters from the arc. A uniquely shy, top-rated student with a unique power. The situations he was put in really helped elevate his standing for me. And of course Mirio, who most people agree is pretty dope. The nuances of his phasing quirk is really interesting to see unfold in combat, and he's overall just a fun character to see interact with the main cast. Fat Gum was great. Lockdown being able to suspend things in mid-space was a cool power to see. The side characters really were the highlight for me in this arc. Deku, on the other hand, kind of just existed. He doesn't really have any real relationship with Overhaul aside from wanting to stop his evil plans. He doesn't have to risk anything to even defeat Overhaul with Aries' cheat code quirk, and that's it. He honestly has no presence in this arc aside from just having to be the guy to ultimately defeat Overhaul. As a quick note about Overhaul, his character isn't even really fleshed out. He has a problem with quirks in the world because it contributed to the fall of the Yakuza. Yet he is completely fine with having one, a quirk of his own. It doesn't even faze him. But as seen with his speech with the old Yakuza boss and with Deku, he seems to have a huge problem with quirks. This also ties into why his plan to remove quirks from society. Overall, he's just not an interesting antagonist like Stain or All For One, with an overall boring quirk added in. I've talked about this before briefly, but what makes the best My Hero villains so compelling is how they interact with society. Each of them represent a critique of their world as a whole, and through that critique, they are able to exert a lot of presence for the viewer and the story as a whole. This can most obviously be seen with Stain, someone who believed hero society is flawed and needs to be reformed. Unable to convince the populace, he decides to kill people to work towards his goal, and by getting defeated, he sparked a revolution of sorts among villains everywhere. He had a lasting impact. He had such a unique character and design. His quirk made for interesting combat sequences. He was an effective antagonist. Overhaul, on the other hand, does not share this trait, or at least not effectively. His critique would be something to the effect of Yakuza should rise up again, which in no way has relatability to any other character we've seen in the series. His means of achieving that goal are ridiculous and ultimately turn him into a generic evil for the sake of it type of character. And design-wise, he doesn't bring anything unique to the table aside from, I guess, his Plague Doctor masks, but that's not very significant. So this arc doesn't work for me, but that doesn't mean this season was all bad. Far from it, they adapted one of my 2 favorite arcs this season, the one focusing on the Gentle Criminal. I won't retread old ideas here, but if you're interested in my thoughts on him in detail, click the card above to watch my analysis on him after this video. But to sum up my overall ideas, the Gentle Criminal does everything positive I said about Stain and does so with an interesting premise and without the need to up the power scaling. It's some of the best that a shonen type story can do when it strives for longevity. And then the final adaptation of this season was the ascend of Endeavor to #1 status alongside his battle with High End. It was a strong place to end the season. I'm not gonna lie, and I actually rather enjoyed this arc. The antagonist obviously isn't that fantastic, just being another Nomu, only his gimmick is even more quirks and being intelligent. The fight was cool. Hawks was introduced, who, to be fair, is a pretty cool character, and Endeavor beginning his character development to show the world he deserves to be in the #1 spot. The visuals were on point, the combination with Hawks giving Endeavor his wings, all of it was great. But from a story perspective, it's just okay, which is going to be a problem I think people will start to pick up on from Season 5 onwards. The story starts to slack in a lot of places, at the very least in a noticeable way since most people did enjoy the overall arc. I'm afraid it's just becoming another shonen that focuses on cool power-ups and spectacle while leaving out what makes the spectacle and powers have weight. Overall, Season 4 was okay. I don't think it's better than Season 2 or 3. I think those two cover story arcs that are a lot more interesting and unique overall. They skipped out on animating Mirio's fight with Overhaul, which everyone was looking forward to, and aside from the big moments, the fights weren't given too much love. Maybe I'll go in depth into some of these issues again in the future. If you enjoyed, check out the playlist for more videos like this one. I hope to see you next time.